Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in into this recorded presentation of Luella Anderson Residential Street Improvement Project. Before I dive into the presentation, I just wanted to acknowledge the gravity of the situation that we live in today. The fact that we are recording this presentation is one of those extraordinary circumstances that we find ourselves in. So to help reduce the spread of COVID-19 and to keep our residents safe, we decided to record this presentation for you. You can refer to this or the project website or reach out to us to get the most up-to-date project information. With that, this is an outline of today's presentation. We will cover some of the existing conditions of the project. We will go over the schedule as well as project goals, and then talk about a little bit of the scope and some of the local considerations that went into determining the project concepts. We will talk about some of the recommended concepts for the project. We will cover some of the assessments and utility improvements, and then finally, we will discuss some of the next steps for the project. Now, a background of the project. First, where is this located? This is in Luella Anderson residential area in Hiawatha neighborhood, generally bounded by 46th Avenue South and West River Parkway, and 42nd Street East and 38th Street East. The streets in this area were built in the 1960s, and the total area of the project is about 1.8 miles. This project is funded from Residential Neighborhood Reconstruction Program, or PV 131. And the most recent work that has happened in this area was a 2018 sidewalk replacement program and a little bit of water cleaning and lining before that. Now, the scope of the project. This project has different treatments that we are recommending. We have spent a lot of time in analyzing and evaluating the right treatment for each type of street. And our recommendation is to fully reconstruct 42nd Street East from West River Parkway to 46th Avenue South. That is due to the pavement condition that has deteriorated beyond repair. This scope will include the full right-of-way and underground utilities, both public and private. We are also recommending, so that is highlighted 42nd. If you can see the map on the left side, that is highlighted on red. We are also recommending renovation for the rest of the streets that are highlighted in blue. Those streets will have a scope that includes select curb and gutter replacement, as well as select concrete panel replacement on utilities and some intersection improvements in the form of bump outs. That's why we're calling it renovation and not reconstruction. Even though we're not tearing up the entire right-of-way, we're still doing all the utilities and replace what needs to be replaced. However, the panels that are in better shape and the curb and gutter that is in good shape, as well as the sidewalks that are in better shape, we would leave them the way they are. There is a segment of Putnam Boulevard that is on the fence between full reconstruction and concrete rehabilitation. That street, even though the condition that might not warrant full reconstruction, there are things that we are considering about utility improvements that might dictate full reconstruction. We will get you updated for that on the project website, so we will put that information out there. You can also reach out to us about the status of Putnam Boulevard within the next few weeks. So that is the scope. Now, some of the local area considerations that will play into determining conceptual layout for the streets that will be reconstructed, such as 42nd, is that there are major schools in the area. Dowling Elementary is one of them, and then Minnehaha Academy, which is adjacent to an entire side of the project length, as well as the church, St. Peter's Lutheran Church. We had conversations with staff from these organizations to give us their input and also to understand how they currently use these streets. Now, the goals of the project there are 4 major goals that are all built into the city goals and policies there in general. One of those is to improve the pedestrian safety and access, especially for school-age population and other residents in the area, and also to upgrade a bicycle facility. 42nd Street East is currently in the city's bicycle master plan, the draft all ages and abilities map, and the transportation action plan. Another goal for the project is to improve the street pavement conditions. So that is putting new pavement out there. As we said in the beginning, the streets are aging, so they need new improvements. And also another goal for the project is to improve the public and private utilities along the project corridor. Schedule of the project as far as when things will happen. During this month of May, we have been doing stakeholder engagement, both internal and external stakeholders. And we are recording this presentation for you so that you can also give us your input and feedback. And we're using these feedback and inputs from stakeholders to inform and make changes to the conceptual layout that we are presenting. And we are hoping to finalize that conceptual layout during the month of June. And then in July of this year, we're planning to seek layout approval from Minneapolis City Council. From that point, which is the summer through fall of 2020, really the end of the year, we will be finalizing the design and engineering of the project so that it's ready for construction in 2021. Next, I will talk about some of the existing conditions of the project. 44th Street, so from now on, we'll focus on 44th Street East because it's the street that will be fully reconstructed. The rest of the streets that will be renovated will follow, will have a more limited scope. So the conceptual designs that I present will be mostly for 42nd Street East. Now, this existing conditions represent what current 42nd Street East looks like. The street is wide. It has total right-of-way of 80. Of that, the part that you can drive on is 44 feet wide, which includes 12 feet of travel lanes and 10 feet of parking lanes in some areas. Or the entire right-of-way is that much. However, there's parking restrictions in some areas, as you can see at the bottom. So the green is areas that are currently allowed for people to park, and there's no restrictions. And red is areas that people are prohibited to park on. And the gold, the orange color, is areas that there's parking restriction during the day or during the school times. These areas are mostly near the school. Now, the next few slides is starting with this one. We'll talk about what we are proposing moving forward when the street is reconstructed. It's starting on the east. The main thing that I want to start with is we are proposing two-way cycle facility that is 10 foot wide. This is because the street is currently in the city's bicycle master plan. So we are upgrading existing shared bikeway to have a separated and all ages and abilities bike facility for people that would like to bike. This is on the south side of the facility. That location makes more sense because there are lesser curb cuts and lesser interactions for bicyclists with people that are trying to get into their properties. We are also proposing a minimum of 6 feet sidewalk. I would like to note that on the north side, the existing sidewalk is only 5 feet, so we're extending that to 6 feet minimum. The boulevards on this segment near the 46th Avenue South are 5 and 6. 5 feet boulevard on the north side and 6 feet boulevard on the south side. We're also proposing here parking on both sides of the street. And the reason for that is there is a parking demand here, both for the school operations as well as the church, current needs for the church. Our conversations with the church, we have learned that the current parking is not sufficient for the congregation. So I'd like to provide some parking there. We're also maintaining two-way travel lanes that are 9 foot each. There is, as you can see on this slide, at the bottom half of the screen, you can see the cross sections of what that means. The 6 feet sidewalk, 5 feet boulevard, 7 feet parking lanes, which includes the curb and gutter, 9 foot travel lanes, and then the two-way cycle track. The next segment is west of Burton Lane. So this segment, we are eliminating parking, but it's a short segment. This is mostly an area that currently parking is restricted anyway. The rest of the dimensions that we discussed as far as the sidewalks and the boulevards go will remain unchanged. The boulevards will increase. Since we eliminated parking, we're able to provide more boulevards, which is 10 on the south side and 11 foot on the north side. This means we can have. And also another thing that I would like to point out here is that we can try to save some of the existing mature trees here. As far as the dimensions for the travel lanes go, we can have 11 feet of travel lanes, both directions, on each direction. That includes the curb and gutter as well. Next slide represents what the block of Burton Lane and Kaufman Lane will look like. Here, parking is currently restricted during the day on the north side, but we have heard that there is a resident interest, a higher resident interest, as well as from the school, to provide some parking here. So we are providing parking on the one side of the street that is 7 foot wide. And on the north side, we can have more greener and wider boulevard. These are some of the trade-offs. Every time that we provide parking, it reduces the amount of boulevards that we can provide. And every time that we provide green boulevard, it reduces the amount of right-of-way that is available for other needs. So we have considered closely all the competing demands, and we try to balance things and provide parking where it makes sense and it's needed, and eliminate parking where it's not needed. Overall, there is ample parking for all the needs that exist along the project corridor. The next segment is the last segment near West River Parkway. So this is from Kaufman to Edmond that you see on the screen right now. Along this segment, we're providing some parking on the south side. And the reason for that additional parking here is for the school. Currently, there's parking right in front of the school for fans that are picking up students to park there and wait for the students to pick them up. To create the these pedestrian accessible ramps and more easier pedestrian experience here, it made sense to move the parking on the east side and make the intersection safer for pedestrians. This is something that we discussed with the school staff and something that will work for the school's needs. The last segment on between Edmund Boulevard and West River Parkway, which is not on this screen right now, will be similar to this segment right here. So it will be 22 feet travel lanes and 11 feet boulevard on the north and 10 feet boulevard on the south. And then we will connect to the West River Parkway. That said, I would also like to discuss a little bit about Putnam Boulevard conceptual design. That is still under evaluation because we're still considering what are all the details that we need to figure out and what would it mean if we reconstruct it or if we rehabilitate for utilities. Pavement condition-wise, the street can be renovated or rehabilitated. However, there might be more need that is driven by the amount of utility work. We will share more information about this segment of Edmund Boulevard from 42nd to Follow Drive on our project. People can also reach out to us and we can provide more up-to-date information. Next, I would like to introduce, and he will also discuss a few more slides, my colleague who will introduce himself and then talk about assessments.
Good morning, or good afternoon. My name is Nathan Kemmer. I'm the project engineer for the Luella Anderson Reconstruction project. A few questions for assessments initially. Why am I being assessed? With any reconstruction project, renovation, or new construction within the city, there are assessments. Your property, if abutting the construction, will get assessed. How are assessments calculated? Square footage of parcels abutting the construction using an influence area method are used to determine the amount that would be then multiplied by the uniform assessment rate, which is a standard rate that the city updates every year. Assessment next steps. So we're currently in the initial stages of the design. However, once we get further along, we'll have a representative who will come to the next meeting or the next recording who will address more of your concerns or your questions, and will also give a more in-depth look at the assessments. So for utility improvements, sanitary sewer. So the sanitary sewer work will be completed in areas that are deemed necessary. What this means is that we will be upgrading, replacing, or fixing the underlying pipe. Currently, there are great issues in certain areas that need to be fixed and are currently being evaluated. Also, an option to homeowners who will be having sanitary work being done in front of their homes, which will also be notified at a later date. They will have the opportunity to upgrade their sanitary connections at that time. It is not necessary, but if you'd like to have it replaced with a newer connection, we can have that discussion. Along with that discussion, the homeowner needs to realize that the sanitary connection is the responsibility of the property owner and would cost money to have replaced. But in conjunction with our work, it is a better time to get that work done instead of coming in later and spending more of your money to get that fixed and upgraded. Storm sewer. So along with sanitary sewer improvements, there are storm sewer improvements in certain areas as well. So what this would entail would be same thing, upgrades, replacing or fixing of the underlying pipes, catch basins, or the manholes. Throughout the neighborhood, a majority of manholes will need to be upgraded, fixed or replaced as well. There's a large amount of them where if you walk through the neighborhood, you can see there's a lot of cracks around them, and that could have underlying effects. So we'll be evaluating those as well. For the gas lines, CenterPoint Energy has work that will include upgrades to their existing connections. More will come from this, and we are actively working with CenterPoint to coordinate effectively so that we're not in there more time than we need to be. Subgrade correction. So for subgrade, in areas where there will be sewer upgrades, there may be potential bad soils. And what this means is that the soils are not the preferred soil or preferred, sand or clay that needs to be underneath this concrete roadway. And that's why some of these issues may be there currently. With that, there may be some soils throughout the neighborhood that are hauled off and replaced with more applicable soils. This will ensure more longevity of the pavement and preventing the need to return in the future. And that's it for subgrade.
Thank you, Nathan, for that information. Now, what are some of the next steps for the project? Now, 30% project update and engagement is expected to continue during the month of June. What that means is we've been listening to our stakeholders for this month of May. We're recording this presentation for you. We will provide all this information online. We will send residents, and we are collecting feedback from stakeholders, and then we will make any changes that need to happen. And then we'll circle back with the stakeholders on the finally proposed conceptual design that will eventually go to City Council to seek layout approval around July. And from that point, as I said in the beginning of the schedule, we'll start getting into finalizing the engineering and design for the project throughout the rest of the year. Construction is still expected to happen in 2021. This is for the construction part of the project, which is at this point 42nd Street East from West River Parkway to 46th Avenue South, and might be Edmund Boulevard. The rest of the area will be renovated, and those projects will not seek layout approval. However, you can let us know of your thoughts. We will likely phase the two projects so that we do one at one time period. So maybe start with 42nd and then do the residential area renovation after that as a second phase of the project. And there will be more information to come in the future as far as the project phasing and construction timelines are concerned. With that, this is our information. We provided our emails as well as our work cell phone numbers. These are the best ways to reach us since we're working remotely and we don't have access to our desk phones. You can still leave voicemails if you somehow have those numbers and prefer those numbers. However, the cell phones and emails are the best way to reach us. On top of this, the project website is a good place to start this. And we will provide that information as well. Thank you for listening to this recorded presentation again, and have a good day or good night based on when it is when you listen to this. Bye.